But it is time to hit social media for cash tags. For that, we'd like to welcome in Andy Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com, and we have Jenny Horn here with us in studio as well to talk a little bit about the future of where payments may be going. You were just talking about using Apple Pay actually on an Apple Watch not so long ago.
Yes, so cash is not king. I know you love to say that, Kevin, but it is not king anymore.
Jenny,
I know.
it is.
It's not the future. So we got Cash App, Venmo, Apple Pay, Google Pay. That does seem to include Chase Quick Pay, and I live in kind of a bubble because I really only ever use Venmo, which is of course owned by PayPal. So I did some research in the newsroom today, and I was asking people why they would use Cash App over a Venmo. And I learned that there's this referral code. I mean, it's something of like $5 that gets people initially to be using Cash App over Venmo. There's no referral code for Venmo. So I thought it was really interesting because I was like, why would you be using, what's the draw to one or the other?
See, now I use Quick Pay.
Okay, because you're a Chase customer, right? So
exactly.
I'm not, so I use Venmo. So I was just kind of curious, the allegiance people have seems based off of the benefits or of course your bank, which is Chase.
Right.
So Andy, I'm curious to see how these all stack up because now it seems like there's so many in this space.
Yeah, there's quite a few and leaders have emerged. Excuse me. So LikeFolio, what we're trying to do is track the number of people talking about actually utilizing these apps to make payments, whether they're peer-to-peer or to a store or service provider. And, you know, you can see from this chart the absolute domination in terms of, you know, the chatter around these apps. I think Jenny makes an important point that Cash App really gives people an incentive to share this socially and among friends. So it kind of skews the data. But what is important, less so than the gap between the four of these at the right side of the chart, is that they all pretty much started from the same place. If you look at the beginning of 2017, all of these payment providers and peer-to-peer solutions were generally around the same area, and the growth of Cash App, the growth of Venmo have absolutely dominated Apple Pay and Google Pay. So we don't think that this is a complete reflection of how much these services are used, but we do think it's a pretty accurate look at how much growth they may have had over the past couple of years. And for Cash App and for Venmo, it's been really nice. And for Apple Pay, it seems like they may have dropped the ball, and Google Pay just kind of nowhere to be found.
Someone tell the old dude, what's the difference between Cash App, Venmo, and what I do, which is Chase Quick Pay? What's the big differentiator?
Well, I think that the difference is that Venmo and Cash App are just kind of those third party. And so whether you have Wells Fargo or Chase, you can still use that service, and you don't have to have the same bank, where I think Chase Quick Pay kind of dominates regional markets that are dominated by Chase.
And I'm assuming you avoid paying fees. Like if I want a same day transfer with Venmo, I pay a 10% fee. And I'm assuming with Chase Quick Pay, you don't have to pay
I don't
that
pay
fee.
any fees.
Yeah, see, that's a benefit.
Also, another difference would be that there isn't like a social media feed on Chase Quick Pay. It's just going to be a transaction that's going to be on your ledger within your personal banking, where Venmo is almost like a Twitter of payments that are, you know, sent across. You could send me, you know, $1 or something, and it would put a little emoji on there for a cup of coffee, and everyone that you're friends with would see that you did that. But the one thing that I notice here, Andy, is that they're all kind of generally growing, and so maybe this is kind of reflective of this space picking up more steam in the last couple of years. And we were talking off air here, and we know that you are analyzing primarily English-speaking tweets. And so Google Pay maybe is doing okay in overseas markets, more international markets, where companies like Samsung and Android devices are more representative of the population, where of course in the US, Apple is going to be a stronger percentage of the population for the iPhone. But this is generally a move towards this new alternate payment system, in spite of Kevin saying cash is still king.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that this is a major growing sector of the economy. You know, if you look at this, I think it's kind of interesting to also think about this in terms of versus Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency adoption. What you're seeing out of Cash App, Venmo, Apple Pay, that's really what was promised from the cryptocurrency revolution, and it kind of has failed to deliver. And so it's very cool that you can walk up to, you know, the cash register at Walgreens, scan your phone or your watch like Jenny did, and leave without actually having to hand over any cash or swipe a credit card, and everything's really secure. So I think, you know, from that perspective, I think that what's happened is kind of the US dollar has turned into the dominant digital currency as well as physical currency. And so I think you can call either one of these There's a reason they call it the Cash App. It's because cash still is king, and these are just variations of using cash.
So, I have another quick question. I may be like showing my naivete here. How does Amazon Go play into this? Because you don't use cash there either. You just walk in with your phone, and all of a sudden it hits your account. How does that happen?
Just another reason to never use your wallet. Yeah, it's an app, so you just scan your app and walk in.
Yeah,
and
I know. I know. I do it, and it's like,
Just-
wow. It still feels not natural for me to just walk in the store and grab
I
something.
do feel like
and
I'm
walk out.
stealing when I do that
Yes.
still. Yeah.
I completely agree in terms of feeling like you're stealing because it's so quick. I can go in there and get something in 6 seconds and be out. But I think that's really the move towards this. It's all the same things, whether it's a credit card payment or actually a cash transaction in terms of one person passing actual U.S. dollars to another person. But it's changed the efficiency of everything. You no longer have to go to the ATM and pull out cash and walk over to your friend's house and do it. You can just send them a Venmo or a Cash App or a Quick Pay. And when it comes to the Apple Pay and the Google Pay here, you can just pull out your phone, quickly double tap it and pay. It's all just making things faster and faster, and it's all the same technology. Kevin mentioned Amazon Go, which is another interesting one, where you're just scanning, it lets you in, and it's really just making things so much faster now and allowing there to be so much more scale with less employees, which is generally what we're seeing across every industry, right?
Yeah, that's what we're seeing across every industry. When you look at the success of Starbucks, a lot of the success of McDonald's is coming down to the usage of their app, just like Kevin's talk about Amazon Go. You've got your payment system, whatever it is, some sort of credit card or bank, tied to that app so that you can make your order, make your payment without actually having to do the transaction at the store. Just go and get what you need. So it's a velocity of transactions. It's reducing the requirement of a labor force, increasing profits for companies, and convenience for consumers. So I think this is a trend that has major legs going forward. Nothing going to stop this.
Andy, I like that you mentioned, of course, cash is still king, because I think a lot of days we go through the day without ever opening our wallet. I mean, I Uber to work, and then there's Apple Pay, and then there's Venmo, and then I go home. I mean, I still spent money, but I never actually opened my wallet, which is, of course, we mentioned the convenience to consumers, and people really like that on social media. People love Apple Pay on social media, the fact that they can pull out their watch or their phone, and you don't have to dig into your bag or even have your wallet. I like the security of not even having to carry my wallet with me when I go grocery shopping, which is really cool. So our first tweet is from Justine Sky, who says, honestly, Apple Pay is so genius. I left my wallet at home, but it's all good. This was kind of the general theme what I saw on Twitter today with Apple Pay. People love the fact that they don't have to actually have physical cash with them, because, I mean, that's a safety thing. I hate carrying cash on me.
Hold on, you have to read that correctly. It's not all good, it's all good.
Even more emphasis on the good.
Do it the way she said it.
Yeah, it is all good.
Unless your phone dies, then you can't do anything anymore.
Yeah, right.
So
exactly.
there's so much more reliance on that particular device more and more going forward. But when you're looking at this stuff, Andy, and you're looking at how people are potentially using these services going forward, is that going to? I mean, you might not know the answer, but it feels like it's going to be you're going to be less conscious of how much you're spending. Well, before, if you're pulling out $20 from your wallet and you spend it, you knew you spent $20. Where now, you do an Uber for $8, and you buy something at Amazon Go for $3. All this stuff adds up and adds up and adds up. Who knows?
Well, I'll push back on you a little bit, because I think we all went through a period of 10 or 20 years where you're swiping a credit card every time you transact, and there is no real-time log of that on your phone. There is no display of how much you spent. And so I think this is actually a step in the direction of financial discipline. You've got that access to it in real time. Plus, the security measures are unbelievable. I mean, now, when you're using your phone to pay, Apple can actually track and say, yes, he's in this location. Yes, this credit card is valid. We know that this is probably a secure and valid transaction. Whereas if your phone and your credit card are in two different places, for instance, that can actually be a red flag to decline the transaction. So I think it's actually a big step towards transparency and hopefully financial discipline for people, instead of just swiping credit cards and then finding out at the end of the month how much they spent.
Financial discipline might be a stretch for how I use it.
Now there's a foreign term brought into this conversation.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know so much.
Financial discipline.
I can't say I can speak to that myself, but our next tweet says, I'm shocked with all of these payment systems: Square, PayPal, Apple Pay, Google Pay. Today I saw a Nerd Wallet ad. Seems like too much competition competition. You still have MasterCard and Visa too. We're not even talking about cryptos and Bitcoin. So Andy, you kind of lightly touched on, of course, cryptos and Bitcoin, but we haven't even mentioned MasterCard and Visa. And I believe actually Visa came out today with they're announcing a Plaid partnership. They bought it for something of $5 billion to kind of compete with a Venmo. So is this space getting too saturated possibly?
Yeah, it's possible, but I think at the end of the day, the best product's going to win. I think it's good for consumers. There's a lot of competition in this. But we had Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, various bank cards. There's a lot of room for a lot of players in this space, and I think Visa and MasterCard are natural beneficiaries of this because usually all of these platforms are ultimately tied to a credit card where there are transaction fees going through on everything that isn't peer-to-peer. And so I think that they're benefiting from this, and that acquisition of Plaid's very smart. It's obviously a very big acquisition, but I think going forward, I just think you've got to look at who's providing the best experience. And for some people, that's Venmo. For some people, that's Square. And Apple Pay is just sitting there waiting to dominate because it's literally in everybody's pocket or purse on their person at all times. So it's going to be fun to watch as we move forward. And I think the last sentence there, we're not even talking about cryptos and Bitcoin. There's a really valid reason for that at this point.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. It's like 8,600 right now, right? Yeah.
All righty, Andy, we'll leave it there. Well said as always. Great conversation. Thanks for joining us. Andy Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio.com. And we have Jenny Horn as well, thanks to you.